welcome to the second day of the Board of County Commission here in Seminole County's budget work session. Today's date is Wednesday, June 19th, 2024. I would ask that Commissioner Herr lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner. Mr. Gray, do you have any opening comments that you would like to state, sir?
Yes, just a few things that I would like to just open up with. First, the order of the agenda this morning, just to update the board. We will kick off. We have all the departments today, and they're all here excited about to present their budgets to you. A few things that we have added that I'll go over here in a few minutes. First, we're going to kick it off with Chief Kinley and the fire department. Then we'll have John Dredge come discuss Public Works. We've added a sales tax presentation. As you all know, that when we discussed the sales tax projects, the third gen, what I wanted to do on an annual basis is almost to clean up the projects. You know, sometimes we add funds or we delete funds from different projects, so I just want to make sure that on an annual basis that we are reviewing our sales tax projects. We'll have Parks and Rec and Mr. Richter, Emergency Management this morning as well with Alan Harris, Fleet and Facilities with Chad Wilski. We'll have Johnny Edwards present the utilities budget, and then we'll wrap up this morning with Kim Ornberg and Environmental Services. And as you know, we just made an adjustment for this afternoon. We'll kick off at 1 p.m., right, Mr. Jex? 1 p.m.?
1 p.m.
1 p.m. with Chris Anderson, our Supervisor of Elections, will be here. Community Services with Allison Thal, Development Services, Rebecca Hammock. We'll have Andrea Wesser-Bronner present our Innovation and Strategic Initiatives budget. Information Technology with James, I always get his name, James Smith. That's what he tells me. Resource Management with Lori Bailey Brown, and we'll wrap it up with all the administrative offices that myself and Mr. Jex will do. And then we'll end the day with wrap-up if there's anything that the board would like us to follow up on. There's a few things that we want to discuss with you at the end of the day this afternoon. Hopefully we can get wrapped up by 4 p.m. or earlier. I know Commissioner Herr has to get out of here for another board meeting. One thing that I did want to discuss as the departments come up, just some of the highlights that are included in my recommended budget to the board, is that we do have a proposed 4% salary adjustment in for all non-union employees, so that is already included in the budgets. This will be the second year that we are investing in our deferred maintenance. I have an another $8 million for the HVAC systems and roof repairs, and we'll be going over those through the different departments. Chief Kinley is going to talk about, we have $10 million towards designing and constructing 3 fire stations that he'll go over. We also have the investment in the Boombah Sports Complex with the replacement of the turf of about $5.6 million. As you all know, that we've been saving that up for the last couple of years in our reserve account to get that replaced. And then we do have our Seminole Forever money in there for this, as well. So with that, I will turn it over. Mr. Jex, did you have anything?
I did.
Okay.
Great. Real quick, let me remind everybody to please silence your electronic devices, your phones, your laptops, your other technical devices that you may have, so that we don't have any interruptions. Thank you very much. All right, Mr. Jex, you're up, sir.
Thank you. Timothy Jex with the Office of Management and Budget. Just a quick reminder, like yesterday, for each department, I'll go over a few of the budget slides. You have your budget documents, and this morning I did hand out one report that has all the countywide projects in it. It's sorted in order of today's presentation. No changes to the budgets that were provided to you in your budget document. It's just for your reference as we go through. So up first, we have the fire department, which is led by Fire Chief Kinley. They have 4 divisions within their department: emergency communications, EMS admin, fire EMS operations, and fire prevention. The fire department is 95% funded through our fire MSTU millage. The general fund piece at 4% includes fire communication and dispatch services. The impact fee slice of 0.5% represents a new tanker to cover growth in Geneva, and the grant is our EMS trust fund. The fire department's base budget, which you can see a full detail on page 397 of your work session document, is $7.5 million, growing to $7.8 million, a $226,000 increase, which is a variance of 3.0%. The adopted budget for fiscal year '24 was $6.4 million. The FY25 budget's growing to $17.7 million, which does include the new stations that the county manager mentioned. All fleet replacement for all departments has been recommended by our internal fleet and facilities department. So that's something that we do receive those budgets directly from that department before we propose them to the county manager. There's 574.5 FTEs in the current budget. We're proposing 2 new positions for FY25, bringing the total to 576.5. And with that, I'll turn it over to the fire chief to talk about his positions.
Morning, Chief Kinley.
Good morning. For the record, Matt Kinley, Fire Chief. Just also with me is Deputy Chief of Operations Betty Cure, and Brian Schweitzer, our Master of Math and Pivot Tables. This budget, I could not do this to this perfection without him. So first of all, thank you very much. I'm trying to be short and respectful of your time. Just would like to hit some of the accomplishments of this last year. Obviously, we opened up New Station 11 earlier this year in January. That was a very long project, which was very successful in the end. Crews are doing great response out of there. It's really impacted some of the turnout times and everything, not having to come off of a second floor. We also received our fire accreditation through CFAI. You all are very aware of that. It's a strategic plan, which through their recommendations has actually driven some of the requests that we have in the budget. I know it was a large topic of conversation last year was the equipment canopy out at the training center. As of today, it's 50% complete and looks to be done by the end of this month. We have the one side's already done and the second side is being put in. And as you all are aware, Fire Station 39 being built out in the backside of Heathrow, Paola area, moving along very smoothly, still on schedule to have substantial completion done in October. If you were to go by, you're going to see that the at least underlayment part of the roof is on, and we just got done pouring the rest of the apparatus bays. So moving along very well. Other highlights, accomplishments, the safer impacts. If you remember 3 years ago, there was a non-matching grant that we received through the federal government to bring on 30 more firefighters to help with our ERFs, our effective response force in areas meeting the NFPA standard. At the time, we were hitting those benchmarks at 56% of the time. Bringing on those 30 and putting them specifically in the areas that they would have the most impact and really in the Altamont area. That's obviously where the highest population is at. As of today, we've hit 75%, which is phenomenal in the fact that we were hoping to hit 70. You'll see later on in the budget that that grant is coming to an end and we're looking to keep those positions on. On that, with attrition and hiring, you'll see as of today, we currently have 8 lieutenant positions that are open. We're going through a lieutenant's process right now. We've exhausted the list, so we'll be filling those as soon as that process is over with. And we have 18 firefighter openings. That routinely fluctuates. We were as low as 5 lieutenants and 2 firefighters, and we were specifically not hiring some of them for Station 39. It's obviously not open, so why have the cost? So we've been purposefully adding people on throughout the last year. This year alone, we've currently, as far as attrition is concerned, 25 people have left, whether that be to go do another job or through retirement, and we've hired 34. So we're gaining on that filling of that station. With community paramedicine, obviously, again, you all are very aware of that. Just to give you some stuff for numbers, Since we started that program, we've visited nearly 4,500 homes, enrolled nearly 500 people, and have graduated 155 out. And graduated means that they've been given or connected to the needs that they had. Just in this calendar year, since January, we've visited just over 1,000 homes, enrolled another 126, and graduated 63. So that program is still continuing to work very well. I know that there was a question yesterday about how we're working with other organizations. The answer is yes. We do work with the Department of Health and Community Services. It's very synergistic with referrals of people with needs, whether that's coming from us, coming from the Department of Health. We'll help them from time to time with vaccinations for homebound, bedbound. So yes, we are working together. Last accomplishment, the long-awaited Lake Harney contract changes. As you all know, we provide services for Volusia County out in the Lake Harney area because it just takes them so long to get there. They don't have a station out in that area, and in the years past, we were recouping about $20,000 in cost. That's been increased up to $155,000, which truly does meet what our true costs are. So with budget highlights, SAFER grant expires in November. We will have spent all of that money of 24, and we will spend all of the money that the government federal government has allocated. We're looking to keep those positions as is with the 4-person apparatus in the areas so that we can continue to meet that ERF that we strive for. Enhancements out in the Geneva area. We have in the budget a tactical tanker. So I know most of you are aware, if not all, of the Firehawk that we did have out in that area. Very robust vehicle, military grade, to get into the areas and deliver water in areas that our regular tankers just can't do. We were looked to refurb that in years past. It just was not cost effective and was not cost effective to buy something new. As a matter of fact, they weren't even building them anymore. So with the high water vehicles, the company Acela has provided us with specifications for a tanker that of the same with the same way with those military vehicles. We do believe that will 100% meet our need. Those trucks have performed very, very well, and that'll give us that ability to get that water supply into the areas that aren't on paved roads. Another service enhancement we're looking through this budget is a whole blood program. That's becoming an emerging best practice that not a lot of people are doing, where we carry whole blood on some of our apparatus in areas that we have traumatic injuries with that blood loss. Some of our neighbors to the south have just started doing it. We are in deep talks with the hospitals and One Blood and being able to do that. We just need some upfront dollars to put the coolers and some of the training, coolers into our trucks and the training. Positions, safety officer. We're a very large organization at this point, metro-sized fire department. The safety officer there's a lot of reporting, training, and yearly inspections that need to be done to meet not only NFPA but state standards. There's also an emerging possibility, very high likelihood that OSHA is going to dip further into the fire service. Currently, there's a standard out there for fire brigade. That's changing, and it's working through the system that they're going to have more of a requirement for us. This is currently being done as an added duty with one of our personnel, and it's just become too big to be able to do it right. We really need to throw a full-time FTE after that. The fire system administrator is, as you all know, we have become very reliant on technology. We're leveraging it everywhere that we can to get our calls processed quicker, get to the calls faster, and compile data to be able to make those decisions, shooting them out the dashboards. There's a lot of systems with our CAD, RMS, Telestaff, that all work together. We need a full-time person that's really looking at all of that and speaks our language, understands our business, to be able to coordinate that all efficiently, effectively, 365 days a year. Last, I will quickly go through our stations. Station 25 out in the Castleberry area, we're coming to conclusion with the building plans on that, going to DRC, and the transfer of land from the city of Castleberry. We're slow playing that a little bit in talks with Christian, Assistant County Manager. They're working on some boilerplate information with CMAR and looking at how aggressive our construction is going into the future, the next 5 years. That will help us be able to accomplish that and hopefully also be some cost-cutting measures. We're working on standardization of the stations with all the little things that go through maintenance through the future, again, to help to cut costs. Station 23 off of Howell Branch by Action Church. As you all know, we bought the land across the street. That will be the next station that we'll start the design on once we've completed the process with Station 25. Station 28 in the Winter Springs area, we were looking for land for that and looking at the area that it was going to be the most effective. The county already owned land. So we have 2.5 acres right behind the Aldi off of Tuscaloosa and 434 that has been earmarked for that station. Looking at the renovations, Station 36, 42, 24, and 16 are all coming up, 36 next year, and others down the line. Again, oldest stations, they need some tender love and care. And we're going to be heavily and aggressively attacking those stations to get them renovated. Looking a little bit further into the future towards year 4 and 5, Station 10 out in the 434 Maitland Boulevard area, the city of Altamont Springs, back when they had a fire department, there was a station out there. And that station has since went away. And now the explosion of growth out there, it's really needed to meet those response times, along with road replacement of Station 22. Again, looking at our older stations and where the growth is happening. And that is all that I have, unless you have any questions.
Thank you very much, Chief. We'll start at the far end with Commissioner Constantine and work our way across.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chief, thank you very much for the presentation. Let's talk about station, what you called it, 10. Would be right on the border of Orange County?
Wouldn't be on the border, but it's getting close.
But it would be right in that area.
And it's more Maitland.
Yeah, and we have Maitland address in the city of Altamont
Yes.
Springs. It's kind of interesting. But Maitland Fire Department is just down the road there. Is there any talk or chance that we can do a little bit of cooperation with those? Because I think that within the Maitland area, Maitland Boulevard Avenue area, they have 2 stations, very close. So, and I know that we have that station. Is it 14 that's right on Hadaway?
Yes.
Okay, so 14's on Hadaway and covers some of the back area there. Then, so there is a possibility, like we do up at the University of Central Florida, to maybe co-op with the city of Maitland, like we do with Orange County, or is that not possible?
That, I don't think that would be possible. We have had some conversations with that, on that. They aren't as close as you may think as far as the timing, but we have been in discussions with them of the potential of integrating them with our CAD so that there isn't that 2 to 5 minute delay, and it's really more towards the 5 minute of being able to dispatch them. That's the challenge.
Okay, and maybe I misunderstood. I wasn't thinking with their current stations, although they have
Okay.
them, but the possibility, because right along Maitland Boulevard, you've had that explosion of apartments that were there that used to be the Pataglia property and all that, so they might be looking to expand their fire department maybe as a co-op
I will talk to Chief
together
Morton about that.
with a new station is what I was thinking of, not necessarily the ones that they have
That
there.
makes
right
sense.
there, yeah. Okay, the second thing is that I remember when you got, and it wasn't you that said this, so I want to be fair, but a former chief, when we got the grant, said that, yes, we would probably, because we questioned, okay, we've got 177, I think is the number, of new firefighters, or what was in that
30.
grant? 30, I'm sorry. The number 177 is in my mind. I don't know what that was, but, okay, 30 new fire, and we were concerned that, okay, what happens after it's over? Will we be able to absorb them? And I think one of the answers to that was that we might be having other grant opportunities to continue it on. Have we explored that?
So you can't, yes, and you can't go after a second SAFER grant to keep positions that you already have. If we wanted to expand, what we could have, and we looked at that, we may look at that the following year, but not to continue to pay for those 30 positions. There's no grant out there for that.
The only other thing, we did talk about 14, someone, and this is always rumors in the neighborhood, said that that station is going to be changed, moved, or whatever, because it's right in the middle of a neighborhood. What is that situation?
So we looked at that, and that was, and looking in conjunction with 10 and how that would work out. And if you would have asked me out to bet a paycheck that 14 would be more effective, moved out to 436. We ran the data, it's not. It's in the perfect position for EMS calls, and if you wanted to be more effective for fire, we would actually have to move it a little further south. So no, that was a topic of discussion, which is gone.
Well, my mother thinks that it's in the perfect position. For EMS, yes.
Well, and as you know, the road network out of there is not phenomenal.
It's not phenomenal.
But the road network in is not phenomenal either. So that's the reason for it being there, is that significantly large community and it being able
Yes.
to effectively get
Okay.
to the
And
scene
thank
quickly.
you for answering, because that was a concern. Thank you. for
It's not
some
going
people.
anywhere. If we could squeeze another bay on it to put a rescue, that's what we might do, but we'll see.
Well, the city has the property across the street.
Yes.
Possibility. Thank you.
Commissioner Lockhart.
I'll just say great job, and thank you for the constant communication throughout the year leading up to work sessions like this. It makes our job so much easier when you keep us in tune throughout the year on the projects that you're looking to expand and things where where we're going to be investing. So, thank you. No questions.
Commissioner Delory.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Chief, thank you for your presentation. As Commissioner Lockhart said, thank you for keeping us updated throughout the year. Definitely want to thank not just your leadership, but the leadership of your team, as well as the men and women of the fire department. They truly do an amazing job on all levels, and we as the board truly know that. I'd like to expand the conversation on your CIP for the future new stations. You talked about 25, 23, 28, 10, and 22. 10 and 22, do we already have the land for that yet?
No.
Okay. I really think that if we're going to be planning for 10 and 22 in years 4 and 5, we really should be looking at purchasing where they go so that we can be ready for them, just like we did at 23. We purchased that property a couple years ago. Luckily, 28 was purchased when they did the widening of Tuscarora Road. But, we kind of fell into that one. But land is not getting any cheaper, and with all the construction out there, I really think that with the software you have, and you've showed it to us many times, on how you can strategically place a station and why that station goes in that location, that we really should be looking at over the next year or so, 10 and 22 for future locations and how to obtain those pieces of property. And so that would be my only suggestion to the county manager, because it's not going to get any cheaper, and with all the growth that's out there, especially in 10, you really need to be strategic in where to put that. And we can also contact Commissioner Constantine's mom to make sure that she's okay.
Okay.
I think she's probably watching, and she's now had it from somebody
sure she
other
has.
than her son.
But thank you, Chief, and thank you for all the staff behind you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Herr.
So that explains that one person that keeps watching this meeting.
Right.
I've wondered, all along I've been wondering. First of all, congratulations on the 4% vacancy rate, which is planned. That's fabulous. I don't think it was there when I first got here, and the work being done to get us to that stage is really awesome. I have no further questions, and I'm going to try to pick up the pace here, so I'll turn it to you, Chairman.
Thank you very kindly. I'm unfortunately going to slow it down a little bit. Sorry. The FTEs that are vacant, fully funded in the budget?
Yes.
Okay. And the Lake Harney contract, do we have a COLA or an escalator
Yes.
on that? And I appreciate y'all finally getting that worked out. That's been a long-standing issue where arguably the taxpayers of this county have been supplementing the taxpayers in Volusia County and covering an area that they're clearly responsible for. I don't want you to go to each page, but I'm going to mention a couple page numbers, and I've just got a general question on line items. And I think I've got my suspicions based on me going back and looking at historical data. But on page 397 of the detail, we've got a 70% increase in travel and training. We've got a 25% increase in uniforms, a 400% in miscellaneous technology equipment. As we move forward to page 401, we have a Medicaid managed care of 53.7%. If we go to page 402, we have leased equipment of 66.7% increase. And if we go to page 405, we have support of the TF4 warehouse, an increase of 26.3.
Mr. Chairman,
And
what was that last page number you just said?
That is page 405.
Thank you.
And in fairness, there are a lot of line items that have dropped 400%, 100%, 70%. So my specific question overall is more generally to the preparation of this document, not specific to the line items, because I've gone and looked at the line items. Is this because we are drilling down on a more specific budgetary process on these line items? Or is this a different method than we've previously followed? And I understand with the cost of goods, we have some things that have escalated, arguably 20, 25%. Just an overall question.
Sure.
From that aspect.
I'll address that. We do track our spend by those line item detail, and every year we try to true it up to the actuals. We start with a zero-based attempt at the budget, so you may see some percent increases budget to budget that really are just matching up with the actuals.
Okay.
And I'll also remind that the overall base budget increase for the fire department was a net of 3%.
Correct. Right.
With all the ones that you mentioned, there may be a couple there where we combine some lines. So
Sure.
you're going to have a commensurate
Right.
reduction in the other. The Medicaid managed care, that's where we're getting money back from the government. So
Right.
the more money we get back, the more we have to pay our vendor.
Right. Yeah, I went back and trued it up with previous budget years and looked and noticed that line items were not identical to what is currently here. So I suspect that there was some merging or truing up in those categories. And I understand it was a 3% increase. And that's when arguably there's many line items that went down the extreme amount. My only question is on the leased equipment. The leased equipment on page 402 that did have an increase of 66.7%, is that equipment that we should consider purchasing rather than leasing, or is it not something that is advantageous for us to purchase for whatever reason?
A lot of that is due to bathroom trailers with the stations, and when we have challenges at the stations, that's where the lion's share of that is at. We have some of those trailers, and we will use them when we can, but we've also been using them when we bring in the mass amount of new hires.
Sure.
So the answer is yes, and we'll definitely look at that.
So you believe we probably could use an additional trailer configuration for that? Long-term?
Hopefully, no, because we're also adding permanent bathrooms out of the training center this upcoming year.
Right.
So hopefully not past that.
But could they not be utilized as well for community needs and in hurricane situations and those kinds of things?
They could, and if emergency management was not able to get trailers, they could be,
Okay.
but then they're not available when the station
At
goes
that
down.
time,
And
right.
That's,
Right. I would like for us to maybe look at that and see if it's a need that we're clearly going to be continuing to spend that kind of money on annually and get a return on investment might be a wise thing for us to look into. Then finally, are you able to give us a report on cross-jurisdiction response in the city of Oviedo, Sanford, Longwood? How often we are covering calls in those jurisdictions and how often they are covering calls in our jurisdiction? Is that something
to
y'all
give
can
you
generate?
Yes, we can. I don't have that specific data
Understood.
with me right now.
I'm not asking for it now, just want to know, is that something you all could do?
Absolutely.
Do you mind gathering that information if it's not too difficult and sharing with the board? Be very
Absolutely.
much appreciated. Great. Well, you all, as usual, have done great work. The community loves our firefighters, and you all continue to carry high levels of professionalism, and it shows and reflects in the community. So thank you all very much and very kindly for being here.
Thank you. We've got the best firefighters, EMTs, and paramedics in the country. And they are excellent.
Oh, and by the way, Orange County is showing up at the graduation ceremonies handing out hiring brochures, so be aware.
Well, the ones that we got from Orange County said they would never go back.
Hoorah. Great.
Mr. Chairman,
Thank you, Chief.
before the chief leaves, one of the things that Kate Latour, county attorney, and I, and the fire department are looking at, some of these cities that that have joined our fire department, and we have moved in to their, they've had the stations that they had. We have went back and looked at some of those agreements, and we're going to be cleaning some of those up, because as we start to do repairs or refurbishing these stations, if for some reason something happens and they start their own or pull out or something, we want to ensure that we get our investment back out of those. So that's something that the chief brought to my attention, a while ago, and so Ms. Latour's office is looking at it now as well. So you'll start seeing those come up over the next year as we start talking with cities, and I may need you to help at the mayor managers type meetings, things like that, as we go through that. But I just wanted to bring it to the attention of the board.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry.
Commissioner Constantine?
Just to dovetail on your comment and then the county managers, has any of the other cities that right now maintain their own personal fire stations gotten into any conversations with us about? Okay.
Not,
No.
Chief? Okay.
Commissioner Hurd, did I see your hand?
You did see my hand. I just want to get on the record, and I'm going to just use one example. It was the first one that was used because the number was alarming. There's a 70% increase in a line item budget. The original budget was $10,000, and the new budget is $17,000. So I just want to put it out there that the level of detail that we were speaking about with regard to that is relatively small dollars, and Mr. Jex is absolutely correct in that the overall budget increase is 3%. I just don't want that to reverberate back and be a reflection on anything. So this is just a level of detail that is fabulous that you got into, but without the rest of the story is concerning from my perspective.
Anything else?
Nope.
Well, just on top of that, unlike the chair of the constitutionals, when they put a line item here in our budget, they can't just move it around anyway. So, they have to keep it within
Right.
that line item
Right.
without request, so.
Understood. Yeah, for clarity, my inquiry was more from an accounting perspective and not a dollar perspective.
Sure.
I understand the 3% increase. I can follow the numbers pretty good. So, very good. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
All right, next up is Mr. Dredge in Public Works.
We're going to do two presentations. We have the Public Works Department, and then immediately following will be our sales tax program. It's our third-gen sales tax program, and included in your presentation is a full list of all the current FY24 sales tax project budgets. So we'll get to that after the Public Works Department. Public Works Department is led by Director John Dredge. It includes the Engineering Division, Roads and Stormwater, Traffic, and the new Real Estate Management Division. The funding for the department is 44% from the Transportation Trust Fund. That includes a small millage and gas taxes. It includes roads, stormwater, and traffic engineering. The sales tax piece represents our capital infrastructure projects. The general fund of 3.5% funds our development services review program, and then impact fees are one project for North Street corridor improvements. The overall base budget for the Public Works Department is $7.1 million in the current fiscal year, growing to $7,373,000. That's a 3% increase. Their CIP, you'll notice for fiscal year '25 is dropping, and that's reflective of the fact that the third-gen sales tax penny sunsets this fiscal year, so we have 3 months of funding compared to last year where we had a full 12 months of funding. The current FY24 budget includes 185 FTEs. We're proposing 3 additional FTEs in the Real Estate Management Division for a total of 188 FTEs. And with that, I'll turn it over to John Dredge.
Good morning. I have with me Johnny Morgan, who is the finance for engineering, and I have Tony Nelson, who is the county engineer. I'm going to go over the budget as overall, and Tony will go over the penny tax surge and overall. For staffing, we currently have 185 FTE. We're proposing to add a new position for the real estate management and make that real estate management as a division, so we can concentrate on the efficiency and expedite some of the acquisitions. And also we'll be managing the leasing contract and the surplus county property. A vacant position. Since last year, we had a lot of vacant positions. We filled a lot of them, especially in road and stormwater. We filled about 19 positions this year, and we had promotion about 16 positions with road and stormwater. We currently, in road and stormwater, we have around 14 positions vacant, which is a lot less than what we had last year. And I think we're going to the right direction. We're working with HR to be creative how we fill those positions. And also we have some other vacancy in engineering. It's small, and also in traffic, very small. Total vacancy around 21 position overall. I have highlighted the accomplishment. I included some list of projects to include all the division with the public work. Is the capital improvement. We had about 30 bridge inspection and repair. What we have in there, we have a good program on all our bridge. What we do the inspection, and also any deficiency we'll go ahead and repair it. Also, resurfacing project completed this year, about 14 of them, and 5 major construction projects. Also, the NRCS project, we have 8 of them. They should be completed in sometime in October. And also, we have a project and a progress. I listed about 4 roadway and drainage. We have a 12 in the bid construction project stage. We have 2 for trail design, and we have also FEMA HMGP grant project. And also, we have an interlocal agreement with the cities, Lake Mary, Casaberry, Oviedo, Altamont, and Longwood. They taking the lead on those projects. We coordinate with them on the project for the tax, for the penny tax. In addition, we highlighted some of the traffic engineering for stormwater. It is a big list. I'll go through some of them and highlight some of them. I'm not going to go through every one of them, but I'll go to some of them. You have the signed work orders. We have about 2468 work order under ground locate, about 2,400 ticket locate. We have the corrective signal work order, 120, and you have 102. You have the fiber repair, signal trouble call, emergency response or trailer call out, mast arm upgrade, new traffic mast arm, and also ITS fiber project, roadway and stormwater. We have work orders closed, almost 2,000 work orders closed. We have around 19, as I mentioned before, 19 roadway storm in New Hire and 16 internal promotion in that division. And also the ditch cleaning and canal and pipe cleaning as well. Those are highlight. And the budget, as Tim said, it is very lean, and we do have a lot of projects and currently in progress. And I believe this year there were a lot of busy, a lot of accomplishment. I'm very proud with public works this year. And I answer any question you may have. If you want to wait to the end of the presentation, after Tony goes through the penny sales tax program, or you want me to address anything about the...
Thank you very much. I think we should separate them, in my opinion. I'll start with Commissioner Herr.
Thank you, Chairman. First of all, I want to say thank you for all the work that you've done and the presentation, all that good stuff. But I am a huge champion for the additional staffing in creating a real estate division, because I am living it with Midway, the property acquisition. We have Midway and Orange Boulevard, and the amount of work that we're doing, because we've shortcutted the staff that we're applying to the project, is significant. And it's slowing down the project, and quite frankly, it's costing us money, because the longer we delay shovels in the ground, the more expensive the project is. So I think that's a great investment. I thank you for that. I never cease to be amazed by the fact that I get a budget book and don't know what something means in it. So what is a context-sensitive improvement? Apparently, we did one in Longwood.
Okay, the Longwood, it is the improvement that the project is improvement of the corridor on 427. City of Longwood, they put parking on street parking and more like a complete street type of project.
Got it.
Commissioner, what page is that on?
That is on the, I don't see a page number here, but it's the one FY24 capital in progress, right after highlights and accomplishments. Oh, I'm in the big I'm not in the
Presentation
detail.
slide under.
I'm in the presentation slides. And it was Longwood, North Ronald Reagan, context-sensitive improvements,
Yes,
which I'm taking to
that
mean that
is- that
stuff
is-
happened around us, and
It-
we had to go fit our stuff in.
No, that is done by the city of Longwood.
Okay.
And Longwood, they took they got with DOT, and DOT funded most of it. And they did not bill us for the part. We had $1 million in the penny tax. They did not, they also spent some money on the design. They never billed us for that share. They billed us now for that share. But that project has been done. That project is, if you drive up 427 from 434 north, it is also on street parking and some landscaping, hardscape improvement.
Got it.
So would I see the detail of that project in the budget detail? No.
The budget detail, the only thing is, no, you will not see it because it is old project.
We're looking back at accomplishments. Okay, got it. Okay, thank you.
And then my last comment is congratulations on the 19 new hires and the 16 promotions. The 16 promotions will actually help us retain good team members, and bringing blood into the organization is the key to success. So thank you.
Commissioner Delory?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Dredge, congratulations on not just you, but your entire staff for all your hard work over this past year and many years. And as Commissioner Herr stated, I think it's the appropriate thing to do with the real estate group. We've actually removed them from our staff years ago, and we've been feeling it for a number of years, and I'm glad that it's got to a point now that we're correcting it. Sorry, it's the Midway issue, but it basically put a light on it, and it's good that we're addressing it, so congratulations for that. Not today, but at some point, I would like to have a work session so we can understand the congestion management in the county to make sure that we're spending money correctly and anticipating what's going to happen traffic-wise and congestion-wise as we move forward. But John, I think you and your staff done a phenomenal job. There's a lot of people behind you. They all should be commended, so job well done.
Commissioner Lockhart?
So I'm in the detail book
Okay.
on page 424. The tunnels at 434 and 436 continue to pop up, and I just want to make sure that we are in alignment on next steps for this project, that we're not continuing to spend money to design tunnels if we don't have money to build tunnels.
Yes.
So can you help me with that?
Sure. Commissioners, all the attention before to leverage some money for the tunnel. We have put money for the design, and our attention to go for a grant through Metro Plan down the road for the construction. Last was the intent of that project when we came to the board and we presented it. We do not have any construction money in that project, but currently, we're doing the design, the final design, the design, and you will have a workshop, you will have a presentation sometime this year on the status of that project. And also during our presentation and the selection for the tunnel, you ask us to come back when we have, I believe, 50% of the design, to come back to you, and we will be coming to you with presentation sometime this year, before the end of this year.
And that's what I wanted to tell you. We're almost at the 50% design soon, and so that will come back to you this summer when we get to that point for you all.
To show you what the status. But really, staff, we've been really trying to see when the grant will be available. We don't have what I call it construction in the budget for construction, because
Okay.
that project, it is down the road. Now, if in the future, if we see some grant and maybe some match fund, we will be coming back to you, say, okay, we have a grant, we need a 20% match fund, or whatever that amount. But we do not, I don't think is the board or the staff attention to fund that project completely by the county.
Right. So
Mr. Dredge, could you pull your microphone a little closer? Your volume is, I'm not sure.
Okay.
but-
I'm leaning forward and squinting as if somehow that makes me hear better. It doesn't. So here, this is just my 2 cents. If we get to the play, we need to decide as a board how much longer we're going to wait to find this magical grant money that is, from my understanding, nowhere in the foreseeable future. When do we decide to pivot to an above-grade option there as opposed to the tunnel? Because while we're sitting here waiting, we have residents who are trying to cross that very dangerous intersection, and they've been asking for years and years and years for there to be a safe way to cross those two sections of our trail. So I am very much not interested in throwing good money after bad and continuing to waste time if we do not have a sure thing in the very foreseeable future of money to fund a tunnel project. My dad would call this betting on a come. So I just want to make, and I know I may be in the minority on that thought process, but I just wanted to get it on the record.
Commissioner Constantine, then back to Commissioner Herr.
Explain to me, and maybe it's the county manager, because I'm in agreement when it comes to the real estate management. I think that's long overdue. I also believe that we probably did make a mistake when we took it out, but that was another story.
I wasn't done, by the way.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh.
Oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Oh, I thought we were talking about the tunnel.
No, go ahead.
Well, and my hand raise was related to the tunnel, but
Yeah, I've
sorry.
got quite a few more things to do.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
please.
I thought you were
No,
talking
go
about the
ahead.
tunnel.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
No, I'm fine.
No.
Do you want to talk about
No, no.
tunnels? And I'll do my next item?
Commissioner Herr, go ahead and talk about tunnels.
All right, here we
Anybody
go.
else want to talk about tunnels?
Don't know yet.
Okay, go ahead, Commissioner Herr.
so this was very early on in my tenure, and I do remember, I think it was a 4-to-1 vote. I'm adamantly not in favor of putting a tunnel in. I think it creates a staffing responsibility for us on an ongoing basis, and quite frankly, it's a safety situation. I don't know many women that would voluntarily go through a tunnel. I just don't. And I still don't. And I have new information to bring based on a citizen reporting back to me that the work in the committee for that his perspective was that they did not want the tunnel, that was not their recommendation, and that was overlooked when we did the vote. And so I just bring that up, that if we put these committees together, we ought to be taking the work that they do seriously. And I don't know that that's an accurate depiction. I do think it's worth looking into. But that individual actually resigned from the work on the committee because he was so frustrated with us.
Anyone else on the tunnel?
If I could just follow up on the tunnel, and that is a discussion I know Commissioner Lockhart and I have been talking about for quite some time as well. And so, yes, we have committed to bring that back to the board. As I mentioned, we're almost at that 50% design, so we're in the middle of that now. So we hope that it could have been on next week's agenda, but it will either be in July or the 1st of August. We'll bring that back to the board for the board's consideration
Okay.
on how to move forward with it.
Okay, great. And then on the following page, grants and aids to other private organizations, the Bike Walk Central Florida Best Foot Forward program, 22 and 23 actuals appear to be blank, which I thought we had given them money in 22 and 23, and then we have $60,000 allocated for next year. And I've said continually, I'm not interested in continuing to fund this project, so I just want to get that on the record as well.
Okay.
So did we not give them money in
No,
22 and 23?
we gave him the money, yes.
in a different position.
Yeah, we gave him the money, and what we have in the budget, the same what we gave him before, and it is up to the board if they want to continue, give that 60,000 or,
Right. This first came up in a work session many years ago upstairs in 3024, and the thought was, we're going to do it for this year, and then we need them to come back, and we need to see that there is some significant decrease in pedestrian accidents and what have you, so that we know that we're giving them $60,000 a year and we're getting something for it. I know the argument will be, well, you don't know how many more people may have been killed or injured if we weren't doing this. I guess you can always make that argument with something. But I have not seen the significant benefit to that $60,000. They are getting money through a Metro plan. So again, I'd rather put that money into another project here in the county.
okay, they come every year.
I know they do. I watched their
That is-
presentation.
yeah,
I'm
that is-
unmoved. So, again, just getting it on the record. And then on page 433, and this is just, I'm just curious, the increase in, this is in roads and stormwater, the increase in seed cost is 272%. So we've gone from spending $22,000 a year to $83,000 a year for seed. Is that because the cost of seed or because we're scattering more?
It is a lot of it based on the material went up, increase in cost material.
It's the cost. Fascinating. Well, I'm going to start saving my seeds.
Well, I can tell you specifically because I plant Bahia.
Yeah.
It's gone up 400% in 2 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's insanity.
Wow.
Yeah, I was shocked. when I
50-pound
saw
bag's
that.
$200 now. It used to be $58.
This is where I make my pitch for St. Augustine and everyone goes nuts. He's shaking over here. Oh, my God. Okay, on page 434, mowing. It appears that we've moved the mowing line, and this is $700,000, so it's not nothing to sneeze at, from countywide support to road stormwater, an additional $739,000. Is that just because we've moved it, or is that
Well,
because we're increasing the
no.
cycle?
No, we have not increased our recycle, and the budget went up about 1.5%, but we consolidate them, we put them under one, and we took it away from the other line item, which was budget last year.
Okay, so we're taking the $721,129 from
the-
countywide support, we're adding it to stormwater, and then we're increasing it 1.5%.
It's about $18,000, it's increase, yes, about 1.5%.
That's exactly correct. It's an $18,000 increase. We are trying to consolidate to make it a little
I
simpler.
was hoping we were increasing our cycles. No, we're still going to let it grow knee-high?
We still, if we want to increase it, we're open, it's up to the board, but we're not, this does not reflect any increase in the cycle.
This has been an ongoing debate since 2007, 8, since the Great Recession, and we went through this whole process of looking at how we could cut costs. And I mean, we were counting orange cones, and how many cones do we actually need to deploy when there's I mean, it was insane the amount of detail that we were going into as staff trying to find ways to cut. And mowing cycles was one of the things that took a hit. And I feel like at some point in time, we need to make a decision, again, as a board, to give direction on how high are we really willing to let the grass grow in some of our county-owned properties, retention ponds, rights of way. I mean, it gets really, we would be giving ourselves code enforcement violations.
Yeah, Commissioner, we visited in 2021.
Right.
And we changed it, if we changed the level, we increased it. For example, give you an example, retention pond, we used to do it 8 a year, and in 2021, we increased it to 12.
Not the retention ponds that I drive by.
Well, but we are implement that, we do it at 12 12 times a year.
All right, I'm going to start taking pictures and texting them to you and saying, when was this one last done? Just like, you're going to be my new Lynx bus.
And a cheer was heard from Orlando.
But
So
if we want to have a workshop and increase that level of service. we'd be
I don't want a
glad to do
workshop on mowing. I
Right.
just want to have people not continue to call me and ask me why we don't mow our stuff. Anyway.
So if we're talking about mowing, I do want to weigh in on that. Mr. Dredge is absolutely correct. This board gave direction to increase the cycles of mowing the roadways, retention ponds, and so forth.
Right.
If it was 21, I was going to say it was 20, late 20, early 21.
Yeah.
I've always had a core belief, as I watch this unfold, is there's some things we do, and it's scattered between different departments. Parks and Recreation takes care of some areas, Public Works take care of other areas, and we have contractors that do other areas.
Yeah, but the contractor does that. Park and Recreation, they do the median mostly.
Understood, I'm not quite finished yet.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
And so my belief is that we should be actually looking at the county taking this all back under our control and actually doing the mowing and actually controlling the schedules instead of having it third-partied out and relying on their schedule to get things done. Because I've run into the same thing in my area or jurisdiction where residents call and go, hey, when y'all gonna mow? And of course, the high growth season is literally, May through September, when the days are starting to get longer and the temperatures and the rain come and all that. And so those cycles should be looked at, not necessarily for the entire year, but the actual growing season.
And
Because there's
Commissioner,
certain months that-
we do that. We do not schedule it one every month.
Sure.
Public Work, roadway and storm, they go and they do have in that area where the growing season, they have it as more cycles than what you have it, for example, in December or January.
Sure.
They do that and they look at it. Now, is it the amount is enough, depend on the level of service. Some other agency, they do it more often. We'll be glad to look into it and come to the board if you want to increase it and increase the funding, but that's what we have.
No, understood. And the other sidebar to all that is, when you get into Bahia grasses, depending on the pH level of the ground,
Right.
you can have Bahia that can grow a foot in 3 weeks compared to something that's more acidic. And I don't know how we control that, but I think overall, I've had a core belief that we subcontract out some things we don't have full control over or not able to control in the cycles of mowing, so, for what it's worth. Commissioner Herr and then Commissioner Constantine, if we're talking about grass and mowing.
Talking about
We're
grass and
talking
mowing.
about grass and mowing.
See what you're doing.
I think at the same time we're looking at bringing it internal, we have to appreciate the fact that most mowing services don't offer pensions to their employees, and there's no way from a unit cost perspective for the employee that we can beat what the private sector is doing. My thought is that we need to really look at how we control this, and I'm gonna say it. This is a dashboardable item. If one pond is more acidic than the other and grows slower than the other, then that one needs to be, we know when that hits the mark. I mean, this is all measurable stuff. And so I think we can get the same outcome that you're looking for, maybe in a less expensive way, and it can be a marker in terms of how we measure the output of the services that we're providing and change that level of service without changing the level of cost.
Carol. Commissioner Constantine?
Thank you. So let's talk about a specific, since we're talking about who takes care of the grass. So This year, we've taken care of the sidewalks along the Hadaway, and this is other citizens that have called me about this, so I don't want my mother to blame on this one. We've had sidewalks. We took care of the road when we had to do some underneath culverts and everything. All right, now if you drive down there, I've had 4 phone calls in the last week, on one side of the street where we put the sidewalks. Beautiful. It's cut, looks great. It's on the city side. On the other side, the grass where the DOT puts all of their tractors, et cetera, as far as I-4, it's more than a knee deep. It's up to your waist. And there's a sidewalk there too. There has been a question of who handles that side of the street.
Commissioner, are we talking about the right-of-way and Holloway?
I'm talking about the right-of-way and cutting the grass.
Okay,
Yes.
cutting the grass on the right-of-way on the street. Normally, it is the property owners that cut in the front of the.
Did you say the city?
Of
So the property owner.
the county, the property owner, usually they cut in
The
front.
DOT then?
If it's DOT, Apatin DOT.
It's where the
then-
DOT is putting all of
Yeah,
their,
that will be DOT,
okay, good.
okay? And
I would know.
and
I have an
anytime we can give them a call.
I would ask you to do that, so look
Okay.
at the 2 sides of the street. It's
Okay.
quite different.
Last question.
Yes, ma'am.
Related to the tree removal and trimming. I'm seeing a deduction in that amount by $100,000, so from $900,000 to $800,000. Is that tree removal and trimming only done on county property, or is it done for trees that impact our sidewalks and roads?
It is done within the right-of-ways.
I'm sorry.
Yes, impact our sidewalk.
So it could be a tree that the trunk is on private property,
If it's-
but if the limb hangs over the sidewalk so that it's impassable, we are going to go and cut it,
Yes,
and this is the budget that would come from.
yes, ma'am. And
Why are we cutting it by $100,000?
We're not cutting it 500,000. I believe we cut that item $100,000.
Right, why are we cutting it by $100,000?
Okay, when we were doing the budget, we tried to stay with certain amount of budget. And I talked to staff and how much where the area we can cut. And based on their servicing what they've been expending, that's what I recommend. We can cut 100,000 because last year we only spent about 800 something.
Okay, so we don't have 22 and 23 actuals in here for that line item, so that made it hard for me to know what did we spend, what was our actual last year. I see what the adopted budget was for 24, but I don't see the actual, so I couldn't see what the rationale was for that.
Okay, let me.
And-
Those reports show the actuals by the account line. When the spend, we try to spend as much as possible to each line item of the budget, but when you expand, if you expand the history to show the spend by actuals, it brings in additional line items and it makes it a little more complicated, so we kind of go back and forth. But if you look, you should see the actuals at the account line level with the mark history, where it says history, that would be the prior years.
But that would be the
That's a roll-up of all the
A roll-up
accounts.
of all. So 1.4 million in that total account, in that whole account line, but we wouldn't know
On this report, you
on
don't
this
know.
report. Okay, got it.
We could get that, though.
I think my concern is, and this always goes back to the calls that come into my office, right? I get calls, I don't want to exaggerate, I'll let Patty say how many calls we get. It's a lot. For tree trimming, trees hanging over the roads, hanging over sidewalks. Mr. Sorensen is a fan favorite. We get calls from him regularly. And we get to the point where, he's just being told no. And I don't know, and others. And so I don't know if it's because we don't have money budgeted for it, or if there's some other rationale that we wouldn't be trimming the trees hanging over the sidewalks or streets.
Commissioner, Mrs. Swanson, every time he called, we'll forward those complaints to our staff. Our staff that go and they visit it, one on each individual. And if it's warranted, we will take care of it. If it is, we already done it through the contractor, we send our people in-house to take care of it.
Okay, so wait, let me make sure I heard what you said. So when we get when Patty gets the complaint, she calls Public Works then refers it to the contractor?
No, we refer to staff. If it is something is blocking the traffic, we send it to traffic. And traffic, they will send somebody from their staff. They say, okay, yes, we need to trim that area. They send it to road and stormwater, and that's how we address it.
Damn, that's a lot of.
That's how we do
mulberry
it.
bushes.
If it's something, it is over the sidewalk, we send it directly to road and stormwater, but every complaint will come, we route it to the staff who is handles that.
Okay, so it's not because we don't have money budgeted for it?
That's right.
All right, just making sure. Thank you. That's all I have for this.
Great. Commissioner Constantine?
Yes, so to finish the question, how's it going to work? The real estate management department, how do you see it working?
Which topic?
I thought we were talking
Hey, I don't want to ask
I
about
thought we were
tree
talking about Public
trimming.
Works.
Well, how is Public Works going to work? But no, seriously.
Publicly.
And I could just answer
Yes,
that real
please.
quick before. So we were thinking actually of pulling it out and being a separate office that actually would report up to my office. However, since the majority of our leases or what we do with right-of-way acquisition stuff is in Public Works, we decided to house it in Public Works at this point. So we'll be hiring a manager plus another position. They already have a few supplement the staff that they have now, and we're going to monitor it this year and see how it goes. We may pull it out at some point. I know one of the requests that came from the county attorney's office, Ms. Kate Latour, she's like, why don't we have a real estate office, to handle some of this stuff? So we're going to operate it under Public Works. Christian Swinson, our assistant county manager, is going to oversee it as well. And if we need to make adjustments, we will.
And thank you for that. Nothing against Public Works in that, but we have a running joke in my staff agenda meetings with Mr. Dredge, who is always buying something. It's usually either on Orange or on Midway, and he's the biggest landowner in Seminole County. But the fact of the matter is that when you look at the management of the land, when you look at the possibility of affordable housing, and look at we have all asked before, what property do we own, where it is, how it is, and everything. If we could really have an office of real estate management that went directly to you and/or the attorney, again, nothing against Public Works.
Right.
They have their projects, but an overall office that's doing that, I think we could get more information about, land that we own and where it is and what it is and what we might want to sell, what we might want to turn over to other, okay.
Yeah.
I'm not going to
This is a step-by-step, so
Thank
you
you. That's all I
probably
wanted.
will see it come out, but.
Okay.
So I know way more about this than I really cared because I had brain damage the first year I arrived on trying to gather and work with GIS on putting a map together of every property that the county actually owned. And I quickly learned that there were 5 different departments in this county that you had to go to find out, because nobody controlled or knew in one centralized location what property existed. And then you learn that, well, certain things can be done with it because it was bought with certain types of dollars, whether it be grant money or whether it was bought with enterprise fund money, whether it was subject to a bond issue or not. So I was running around all these places going, this is insanity. Half of them are over here, a third of them are over there, 10% are in the county attorney's office. It's like nobody knows the entirety. And so I would absolutely be a proponent, again, no disrespect to Public Works, that it really should be in a separate department. Leverage on the expertise of of real estate and legal minds without the inefficiencies of going through Public Works, them having to go through somebody else, go to the county attorney's office and chasing their tail forever and ever.
Okay.
So that would be my input. All right. Any further questions on any of those topics? Very good. Next up is our sales tax presentation by Mr. Tony Nelson.
So I'm going to let Tony do the intro. I'll jump in. I have a couple of comments to make as we go through the presentation.
Great.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman, Commissioner. Tony Nelson, County Engineer. First slide. So currently, we have about 180 active projects ongoing. And this is a mix of sales tax project and other projects. I mean, sales tax project that's on the referendum, and in addition, other projects that were generated based on study that we have done. It could be corridor study, basin study that generated these projects. So right now, we have 180 active projects. Those are projects that could either be in a study phase, a right-of-way phase, a design phase, or a construction phase. As we all know, the sales tax is getting ready to be sunset at the end of this year. So with the sales tax being sunset, we still have to budget for project for next fiscal year. So currently, we have about $44 million in project that we have deferred for the next fiscal year.
And I'll mention that we did carry forward about $125 million to the FY24 budget of sales tax projects. You have the full list of projects in your package. And as of today, we have about $98 million in the current year actually spent or contractually encumbered through purchase orders or work orders, compared to a projected $56 million revenue collection. So the last fiscal year was October 1st, 2022 through 9/30/2023. We were still pretty heavily impacted with supply chain. You know, the construction process was slow, but I think we are starting to see that ramp up now. And the slide on your screen, this is our major revenue slide. We do have the FY24 projections of about $56.2 million, slightly less than fiscal year 23, but still pretty strong. And the FY25 budget includes $14.9 million of third-gen penny tax, which is reflective of 3 months of collections.
Thank you, Tim. Trying to get used to this clicker. So for the next couple of slides, I'm just going to talk about a couple of projects, highlight a couple of projects that we have done in the different area throughout the county. I think the clicker is moving a little bit too fast. In the Oviedo area, we have the Econ Lake Crescent project. And this is a drainage project. What happened is when the hurricane came through, I believe it was Hurricane Irma, the subdivision got flooded. And we applied for a grant. We did not get the grant, so we're using sales tax money right now to design and construct this project, which will alleviate flooding for the homeowners. We have the Redbug Lake Road intersection improvement project. There was a lot of crashes at Bickler Road and Redbug Lake Road. We did an analysis and determined that we need to add a right turn lane, and improve the crosswalk at that area, so intersection improvement along with the right turn lane to improve safety. We also have the 434 roundabout project over there in Oviedo. And this is a project that we use the sales tax fund to leverage FDOT. What we did was we did the corridor analysis, corridor study, and then we did the design, and we coordinate with FDOT and brought them on board, and they're doing the right-of-way acquisition and the construction of this project. So we're working along with FDOT by using the sales tax money to leverage the FDOT to come on board with us. In the Geneva area and Winter Spring area, we have done the Mother's Lake Park Road. This is an area that was completely underwater when the hurricane came through. I believe it was a hurricane or a tropical storm?
Tropical storm.
Tropical storm that came through. And it's a private road, but we also use the sales tax money to leverage HMGP grant, which is the Hazard Mitigation Grant Program through the state, which is federally funded. And we got federal fund, and we did the improvement. We did, we piped those ditches, and we constructed a retention pond and make the area much better in terms of to handle flooding. We have the Miller Road. I think we removed the Miller Road. We have Lake Harney Circle drainage and Old Mims Road. Those are all drainage projects that we're working on using sales tax funds. In the Altamont area, we completed a flood mitigation improvement projects. We did some curb inlet, piping, and we also installed a bath box to treat the roadway runoff before it goes into Lake Orienta. So that was a very good project. We have the Weimar Road that's currently under construction. That project is a safety project for pedestrian and motorists. We're doing sidewalk, we're doing drainage, we're doing crosswalk improvements, etc. We have the Seminole Wekiva Trail project, and I know that was discussed earlier, and I can say that we're applying for a grant for this project next year, and we are taking it to the board in July. In August, we're taking it to senior management in July, and then we're going to take it to the board. So I know you guys asked to bring it back at 50%, and we're right about 50%, as Darren said, so we are bringing that back to the board. And we have the Wekiva Spring Road intersection improvement project. This is a project that we're adding a turn lane for the school. There's a lot of congestion, so by adding the turn lane, you can get the buses out of through lanes. And we're acquiring right-of-way to do additional improvement at the intersection. In the Longwood Castleberry area, we're doing the North Street Improvement Project. We did a corridor improvement analysis along that corridor in the North Street area, and a couple of projects came about. We're working on phase one right now, which is actually in procurement. We're having roundabouts, we're having pedestrian safety, which include wider sidewalk, trail, raised crosswalk, etc. And we're working along with Rick Durr and Park and Recreation, who's going to be developing that park. Do you have a question, Commissioner?
I'm going to wait to the end.
Okay.
Sorry. I shouldn't have done that.
Okay.
Apologize.
We have the new Oxford Road project. I know there's discussion with that one, but right now the project is in procurement. We're widening Oxford Road. We're doing, excuse me, let me back up. We're doing improvement on Oxford Road. We're adding sidewalk, drainage improvement, and we're adding a brand new connection on Fern Park between Oxford Road and 1792. We have the 434 at 427 intersection project, 427 intersection improvement project. This is a much-needed congestion management project. Currently, because of preemption, there's a lot of congestion there, so the project is 90% design. We're working with FDOT. The county is going to front-load that $1 a month for the project, and FDOT will be reimbursing the county. We're adding a new eastbound right turn lane. We're going to have dual left turn lane in both directions on 434, and additional safety improvement for the train crossing. We also have the Woodland Boulevard subdivision. This is a project just south of E.E. Williamson Road. We're doing a little bit of drainage improvements in the area and sidewalk connection. In the Lake Mary Sanford area, we have the Celery Mellonville Trail project. Here's a project again where we used sales tax money to do the design, it's a LAP project, Local Agency Program project. So we use the sales tax fund to levied federal fund for this project through the Metro Plan Orlando. So this project is currently in procurement. We actually split the project into two because of right-of-way issues. And I know there's discussion regarding right-of-way. Right-of-way is one of the main issue with these projects. We're trying to fast-track a lot of these projects, but because of right-of-way, we're getting hang up, and it just slowed down the process a little bit. So we are going to be constructing a trail, brand-new trail from Seminole Boulevard by the lake, south on Melvin Avenue to Celery Avenue, and then we're going east about 1.4 miles. And then we're going to stop and then, work on the second phase. Orange Boulevard, we're doing improvement in Orange Boulevard. There's going to be a new trail. We're going to pipe those ditches, et cetera. Miller Road, drainage improvements. And with that said, I'm sorry.
No worries. Thank you,
Thank you.
Mr. Nelson.
Any questions?
We'll get started. I think it's appropriate to, I'll start this one off just with a few statements of clarity for the public, which is a false narrative that has been running around, that there's allegations that there are hundreds of millions of dollars laying around unspent, and I think what we're seeing here with your presentation, there's going to be a shortfall in being able to complete all the projects that were completely identified unless there is additional renewal based on the initial list and those projects identified. Is that a fair assessment?
Yes.
Okay. I would also point out that the numbers are approximately $800 million that have been collected over 30 years with the three generations, of which arguably a quarter of it has been paid by people that don't live here. But interesting, and not often spoke about, another quarter of that is matching grant monies, which has allowed us to expand the project list to do additional projects or wider projects or more detailed of the projects that were actually identified. And of course, we all understand that the cost of goods and services have escalated since COVID, and so those costs have gone up. So the specific question is, and I also think it's appropriate to say, I've looked at the books. Each project is its own line item that can be looked at. So if anybody in the public wants to see what project was done, what the costs were, there's a line item that says First Street sidewalk, and here's all the cost. Main Street roadway improvements, here's all the costs. It's not commingles, it's not mixed up, it's not this magic pot of stuff that somebody stirred up and tried to hide something. And furthermore, what we learned going forward in many of these projects, and I think it first reared its head in Commissioner Lockhart's district, was a big sidewalk project that was approved by the voters to be done. And then when we went to do that sidewalk project, the citizens did not want it. They protested, did not want their yards ripped up, did not want trees moved. And that allowed that money to be reappropriated to either an existing project or other projects that the community has asked for, or our staff has identified some kind of need for drainage, infrastructure improvements, traffic signaling, or any other necessary need for the community that's permissible under the regulations and under the statute. So I just wanted to make sure that some clarity was shed on that, because those kind of statements that I've heard are just simply not true. And there's very easily a way to verify that. Don't get your news from Facebook. Come to the county, get your details. We're happy to provide it as a public information record. So with that, I will start with Commissioner Herr and work our way through.
I would add to that conversation the fact that we are seeing what I would refer to as unprecedented growth in the state of Florida, and that certainly applies to Seminole County. And this funding mechanism, by the time you leverage out-of-towners that provide revenue and the leveraging that happens with our staff and federal dollars that would go elsewhere if they didn't come here, allows us to stay ahead of that growth so that your quality of life continues to be what it has been despite the growth. So I think that's a big piece of this. I think the disclosure that we provide is fabulous, and it's out there now, so any citizen can get to it. And don't take your news from Facebook unless you're on our Facebook page. Just going to say, just
Good point.
check the source. But I appreciate your report, Tony. Thank you.
Commissioner Delory.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and you and Commissioner Herr are absolutely right about the projects are very well detailed, and you're both correct, obviously, that leveraging the dollars is very key, and that's one of the things I think we should always look at as we move forward, is how we're leveraging local dollars for both city and county, both for state and federal, because you're right, Mr. Chairman, that's big dollars that come back to us, so you're actually spot on point. Tony, you talked about raised sidewalks. I just want to make sure raised crosswalks, excuse me. Just want to make sure you're coordinating with the fire department, because that does equate to a speed table. And so we have to make sure that we're getting the fire department sign off on that. So I'm sure you've gotten that done.
Yes, we have. With all our project, we try to coordinate with the fire department.
Because I know we've had issues with speed tables in other areas, and that has to go out to a citizen's vote. So I just want to make sure that we're doing all of that per the policy that we have here in the county. The other thing I just want to talk about, you talked about Oxford Road. That's at least a 30-year project that we've been working on. I just want to make sure that the needs are still there for that, and we really need to evaluate that before we start spending all those big dollars.
And I am actually looking at that as we speak with our
Okay,
county
thank you.
attorney.
Well, as always, you're right on point, and I just want to make sure that we're spending the dollars, as we always do, to the best interest of the community.
Yep.
And then, Tony, last, you did talk about Lake Crescent, and I understand that that's a closed basin, correct?
Yes, it is.
And I'd like to know how it's going to affect Osprey Lake as well as Knothole Lake. If we can talk about that offline, I'd greatly appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. And the mic.
Commissioner Lockhart.
I'll avoid being redundant. I do concur with Commissioner Zembauer that there has been an inordinate amount of misinformation out there, and we've been able to trace it back to just really one source, and it's unfortunate and discouraging. So I think it's important that we continue to be transparent and open and have as much of this information available easily, readily on our website where the public can access it. When these lists are in our budget, in our agenda items, it is not easy for a member of the public to navigate and find them they're there. But if there is a way that we could easily link to those so that as we're having these conversations, it would be great if we could just, and I think Chris Patton was working on something like that for me before a group the other day, but that's critical for us to be able to help with that communication and making sure that people are getting their information from the source. So that's for sure. I really appreciate the fact that in this budget forecasting, we've only forecast what we have and we know, and that money, I want to make sure something was said earlier about, we're going to be over budget or run out of, I forget what the phrase was, but it's not because we haven't done a good job of delivering projects or because we have not budgeted appropriately. It's because of the cost of delivering these projects has increased so significantly from when we first identified them, perhaps in some cases 10, 12, 15 years ago. Is that an accurate, fair representation?
Yes.
Okay.
It is.
Great work. Looking forward to hopefully our community recognizing the great things that have been accomplished with the penny so far and giving support for the next generation, because we certainly are not short on opportunities to continue to invest for a variety of needs. So thank you.
Commissioner Constantine.
Thank you very much, and Tony, thank you for your presentation. Not to be redundant, but the point is that this has been transformational, looking from the past, not talking about the future. Of course, we can always put what has happened in the past and relate it to the future. But this penny has been transformational, and the thing that I think that has been unique about it was the fact that from the very beginning, we got all the cities and the school board together, and we shared it. You know, it is just, it blows my mind that each and every year that Orange County tries to do their sales tax, they continue to do it just in transportation, saying they'll set up, not sharing it, but doing it all from the county, saying that they will put a blue ribbon committee together to come up with what programs they're going to do. I've seen two people that came from Orange County in the past. And then going ahead and saying, trust us, we're going to come up with good projects, as opposed to the 50, 25, 25, everybody lays it out today. It was on the front page of the newspaper what the school board's going to do. But everybody lays out what exactly is going to happen. You can see it. You can see it in action. Now, sometimes they vote for it and then they come back and don't want a sidewalk. But the fact of the matter is that they are voting on something they know is going to happen, and they also, our constituency is smart enough to understand that others are going to be paying for it, and they're getting a discount on their own costs. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman,
Commissioner Delory.
just for clarification, Orange County goes out for a different penny, even though it's one penny. They go out for transportation sales tax. We go out for infrastructure sales tax. It is one penny, but it's two different types of pennies, can be spent totally different.
Correct.
And I want to make sure that we're clear about that at all levels of discussion.
And you're absolutely right. I was just showing the difference
understand that,
between
but-
one trying to do one thing and the cooperation and what
I
the
agree with
level
that,
of
but I want to
agreement
make
we
sure
come
that
up.
we're clear that they're two different pennies serving two different purposes.
Good point, Bob.
Thank
No,
you, Mr. Chairman.
and to emphasize on that, just to try to tie that up, what Commissioner Delory and Commissioner Constantine are speaking about for the benefit of the public, the 1 cent sales tax infrastructure here in Seminole County is not used for transportation such as Sunrail and Lynx. It is not used for that at all. Totally different, unrelated, but that said, it would be omissive on our part to not identify just at least a couple projects that otherwise would not have happened in this community had this not occurred, such as collaboration with the Florida Department of Transportation on road improvements of state roads that they have the responsibility of. And because of the way funding is ranked federally to come down to the states, and then Florida Department of Transportation has to decide ranking the improvements of those roads, and whether Seminole County is more important than Broward or Dade County or Hillsborough County to get money for state roads is all prioritized. And it's prioritized on a need and what work or studies already exist to be able to fast track those. This has allowed us to leverage FDOT and federal dollars to get sections of 434 through the Longwood area done that otherwise would have never occurred in the time frame that it did. Current projects are the roundabouts and expansion of the 434 corridor through Oviedo that otherwise would not have occurred. Drainage projects, both in the Midway area as well as the Geneva area, and one of them is on the list here, that otherwise, if that money was not there to be leveraged with grant money, those would have never occurred. Some of those being FEMA funds and other community connection funds and so forth. So I would assure you that it's been well spent. Staff has been good stewards, has been very transparent in it, and I sincerely appreciate, as I know my fellow board members do, the accuracy and the line item of each item being so easy to follow for anybody that has a question. That's paramount. And instead of just giving somebody, here's all, here's the revenue, here's the costs, and you lump it all together, nobody knows. But the fact that you all have taken the time and trouble to put it on a line item per project, I don't know who can argue with that. It's there. It's plain, it's black and white. So thank you all very much. Thank you, Mr. Nelson, Mr. Dredge. We appreciate it sincerely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. County Manager, for ensuring that we had this line item situation in our accounting process. And thank you, Mr. Jex, for making sure that happened.
Thank you.
Mr.
All
Chair,
right.
can we take a 5-minute recess,
Thank you,
please?
sir.
Sure. We'll take 5 minutes. to get started? Next up is our Parks and Recreation presentation, Mr. Rick Durr. Welcome, Mr. Durr.
Thank you.
I will say a few words to begin. The Parks and Recreation Department includes 4 divisions: Extension Services, Natural Lands, Library Services, and Parks and Rec. Their funding is 74% from the general fund, which includes parks, libraries, greenways, and natural lands. The tourism fund piece includes $5.6 million for the replacement of fields at the sports complex. The Wekiva Golf Course Fund is projected in FY25 to be fully supported through revenues in that fund with no transfer from the general fund. Impact fees are for library books, and special revenues are donations. The parks base budget increase is it's $10.2 million in '24, growing to $10.8 million, an increase of 6.3%. You'll note that they had contracted increases for landscape maintenance as well as turf repairs at Red Bug Lake Park and the softball complex. If you exclude those, their overall increase was 3.2%. Their capital program, you can see the largest item is the $5.6 million for the tourism turf replacement. They have $259,000 in fleet replacement, and the other includes library books and natural lands boardwalk projects. There's 175.4 FTEs in the current budget. We're recommending to increase 1 part-time staff member to full-time, bringing their total FTEs to 175.92. With that, I'll turn it over to Rick.
Thank you, Tim. First, I'd like to thank our staff, most of which work on the front lines with our customers. They're spread out over 17 different facilities countywide, many of them working nights and weekends directly with our customers countywide. And the numbers that you see up here on the screen are representative of our 4 different divisions who are all running probably at a greater demand than we pretty much ever have, both from libraries as well as our working with our partners in tourism. As you heard back in May at the TID discussion about, we're running at about as high capacity as we possibly can at our individual facilities, as well as the outreach that we continue to have with our partners in extension services, both at education opportunities for our residents as well as working with best practices across the county. We are in the middle of, and I'll say right towards the end of, our reaccreditation process. This will be the 3rd time our agency has been reaccredited. Very, very few agencies within the state of Florida are, and even less have gone through multiple reaccreditations like we have. You can count them on one hand. As a matter of fact, our major interview with our evaluation committee is next week, so we hope to be bringing that to a quick conclusion. A couple of things that we've been working on are some projects you may have heard about. The first one being the Yarborough Ranch acquisition. We are in constant contact with Robbie Parrish, who leads the state's real estate office. Right now, they continue to go through the various steps for closing on that particular property, and we've been promised as soon as they have an agreed upon closing date, we will be able to get that to you right away. Earlier in the year, we were able to complete our 10-year parks system master plan, along with the updates on our Trails Master Plan, our ADA transition plan, and our Libraries Master Plan. We feel like we've got a good handle on both our current needs for our residents, as well as putting the county in a good spot to be able to respond to changing needs over about the next decade and beyond. The last piece of that slide on the right-hand side is the Seminole Forever. We continue to work with the ARC that you had appointed. Matter of fact, we have our next meeting coming up next week. We'll be coming back to you later in the fall with both the application that's been constructed working with staff and the ARC, as well as a timeline and criteria for evaluation of applications. All of those will be run through you as well later on this fall, so that hopefully we'll be able to time the entire rollout of that program to work with the planning that goes into our next year's budget. Other projects that you've seen, we've had ribbon cuttings out at Sunland, Lake Dot, Wayside Park, Midway Park came earlier this year. A lot of those were done with various partners and funding partners, from DOT to community services and utilizing CDBG funding. That kind of approach is taking place at Wynwood Park right now in East Altamont. We had the completion of the Deer Run Park Master Plan earlier this year. We've just replaced the roof on there, so our blue FEMA tarp roof is no longer. It's a beautiful shingle roof now, and we'll continue to move forward on the programming of that piece as we move that project forward. The Rolling Hills remediation progress, both working with the county attorney's office and our various consultants and FDEP, trying to wrap up that entire remediation piece and bring it back before you, will hopefully be coming much sooner than later. And the other piece of that is we've currently been working with Public Works and Purchasing, and we have a solicitation that will be going out on the street shortly. It is currently going through the review process within our current county process to get that onto the street so that we can have a groundbreaking here shortly prior to November is our goal, is to be able to get that project underway. The last item on the right side has been utilizing some third-gen money on some trails projects to quickly get those mobilized and completed. Most of these were part of the Trails Master Plan update that was done a couple of years ago. We've had a ribbon cutting just on Monday, as a matter of fact, out at Lake Mills Park. We've got additional work that's being done at San Lando and at Sylvan, and then we've got safety projects that will be deployed countywide that will all happen within the next several months. So be on the lookout for additional work with communications and having some additional ribbon cuttings as those projects are deployed throughout the county. And with that, we'll be happy to take any questions.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Durr. We'll start with Commissioner Herr and work our way across.
I was thinking you were going to the other end, so I
threw y'all a curveball.
Well, you definitely threw me a curveball. It's funny how we, as humans, get into a rut in a matter of a couple hours. A couple of questions for you, Rick. Would you take a minute and address your vision with regard to shade on playgrounds and quality of the customer experience for the History Museum? And I hope I'm in the right area for that.
Yes, yes. So I'll deal with the first one, the playground location. So we have shade. As we continue to redevelop our playgrounds over time, we install additional shade in all of those structures. Whether they be a shade canopy or the structures themselves may have shade components to them. A number of our parks, we're blessed with a pretty large tree canopy. Sylvan is one of them, for example, where we don't necessarily need additional shade underneath that very large canopy. As those playgrounds are redeveloped, we will add additional shade. Right now, we have one playground in our system, which right now is one of our oldest ones. That's a big tree park that has little to no shade at all. As that one is redeveloped, we will add shade back into that. The other piece of that is we continue to also plant trees everywhere that we can around the playground so that over time, we're developing that shade canopy to help with that particular condition. So that's part of our program as we continue to move forward. Wasn't always such, but that's a big piece of what we do as we develop those playgrounds. The second part with the museum, we have been working with staff in many departments to go ahead and bring in the carriage collection in the Building 302, first and foremost. We've got a senior staff meeting coming up in July to share exactly what that program looks like and the progress that's been made in being able to clean out Building 302 next to the museum. And then we've continued to curate that collection to be able to then move them in as we can. The other piece of that is being able to work with our very overworked museum coordinator, who's a staff of one, and has many volunteers who happen to be there when they can be, and we're very appreciative of the work that they do. However, as we continue to curate the additional collection that we have there, we're going to look at both new ways to manage that facility that may be potentially, and I'm just throwing this out there, it may be less staff hours in terms of actually the opening of that facility full-time, making sure that maybe we need to price it differently, maybe we need to pull it all the way back. We're looking at a number of different ways so that not only if we're adding museum space to that, but then we're also taking full advantage of and full efficiency of the resources that we have. So that will continue to forward here over the next few months, and we'll be bringing that back to you as well.
All right, thank you. That's it, Chairman.
Commissioner Delory?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Rick, your staff of, 176 people, something like that?
FTEs, yes.
Yeah, they all do a phenomenal job on many different levels. To say thank you sometimes doesn't go far enough. So please reiterate that as best as you can when you meet with them. Every time I'm out in the parks, at events, or just at the parks, I hear nothing but compliments on so many different levels. So To all your 176 folks, job well done.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Lockhart.
So I'm going to pick up on a comment that was made earlier by Commissioner Herr with regard to the tunnel discussion about the parks and trails and whatever that committee, what's the name of the committee? Greenways, natural,
Yeah, it's the Parks and Preservation Advisory Committee.
There we go.
PPAC.
Rick, you, through either all the luck in the world or very little luck, have wound up being the director of departments that have many citizen advisory committees. And each one of us appoints people who are very passionate about those areas in our community. And I would say that it's, you know, the main quality of life, aside from our fabulous A-rated Seminole County Public Schools and our public safety, frankly. So when we appoint these folks to these committees, it is because they are most of the time very passionate about these topics. And so when they reach back out to us and say that they've made recommendations and we don't see the culmination of their recommendations borne out in a budget document, there's something that's missing. And so I don't know if it's because we're aware that the recommendations were made and we've said we just don't like them, we're not doing that, we're going in a different direction. But then we need to know, as the commissioners who appoint these folks to this committee, whether this is worth their time. I mean, I have genuinely had people call me and say, I don't know why I bother showing up. I don't know why, because nothing that I recommend winds up going anywhere. And this is not one person. This is, you know, this is across the board. And it's not you. I'm not directing this at you. It's just the nature of working with citizen advisory committees and then having to. So with that backdrop in mind, I do wonder if the Historical Commission knows that this budget shows a $56,000, 39% decrease in personnel services for the History Museum.
$39,000 decrease.
39%.
39.
My apologies.
39.6.
Yeah,
$56,000, which equates to a 39, almost 40% decrease in personnel services.
Personnel services.
It's on page 384.
Yeah, there's only one person. Which page is that?
Well,
384.
384. We'll make sure we've got the exact line item that you're looking at.
Cost center 044500.
I'd like to take a look at that. Our office does the budgeting for personnel, so I'd have to see what was in the FY24 adopted. I don't believe there were any changes to the personnel. So let me take a look at that, Commissioner, and get back to you.
okay.
And if I can, on that same note, if you don't mind, Commissioner, just overall, almost a 20% cut in the
Yeah.
overall budget.
Yeah, that was just yeah. So philosophically, I think the board probably we need to do a better job of communicating to the county manager what our expectations are for the History Museum and for the level of service that we want to have delivered for our citizens there. Because you're taking your cues from us on what it is you want to have happen there. And with all respect to Buggies, you know, I think our History Museum is way bigger than Buggies. And yet that's where the majority of the money is being allocated at this point in time. So I think we need to have a deeper discussion, not today, about really where we want to have our resources go there, frankly, because I'm seeing a distinct mismatch in the budget document here, the conversations that I'm having, and the citizens who are giving their time to it. So that's on the History Museum. Shade structures, it's been a long time since I've had a kid playing in a playground. And I've noticed just driving by, you're lucky, you've joined the ranks of Lynx. I'm not only looking at Lynx buses and now grass and medians, but I'm also
Yes.
now looking at shade structures, playgrounds. And it seems we've got a lot of intentional structures over where parents would be sitting, or structures over like stands at the ball fields where parents are sitting. Of course, you're not going to have a shade structure over a ball field, but I think there's opportunity there for us to look at additional shade structures. Some of these kids will be graduated from college by the time these trees grow.
Yep, absolutely.
So that's my 2 cents on that. I appreciated very much seeing the additional funding in the Florida-friendly yards and neighborhood, that additional portion of that FTE that we have. I think we made that decision in a prior board agenda, and, I'm always going to advocate for Florida-friendly St. Augustine, and
Totally opposite.
Right.
there is Florida-friendly St. Augustine.
a city.
Right.
There is Florida-friendly St. Augustine. It exists. It's in our code.
Oh, yeah, that makes it exist.
It does. Where are
makes
my-
it right.
Where are my IFAS people?
They went out the back door.
They left.
Yeah.
They're like, "We're out of here."
Quickly.
Great job. Those are my only 2 areas of comment and concern. I'll add libraries. I think, we, again, a very passionate group of citizens that continue to give their time, talent, and treasure to our libraries, and I'm excited that if the penny sales tax passes, we have a lot of wonderful upgrades that will be allocated to our library system, so, thank you.
Mr. Constantine.
Thank you. A lot of things going on here, but first, on St. Augustine, I just want to say, Tim from Cherry Lake Grove says hello. I was there just Monday. And yes, and he would tell you that St. Augustine and Florida are not the same. However, on the Parks and Recs, lots of things going on here. Right, so you've got a lot of different things, a lot of balls in the air. So let me just go through the comments that have been made. I concur with. We have a great library system but we've got to continue to improve it. And I think the fact of the matter is that with an educated citizenry that we have here in Seminole County, they demand it. They expect it. And the fact is that, we can go through all those numbers and, statistics lie and this and that, but we should continue to find ways to modernize and update our library systems and therefore become more efficient. The shade structure, I concur with also. I mean, I don't think every child needs to be hidden from the sun, but I do believe that there are locations and places that we need to protect the children, not the adults necessarily. They can take care of themselves. When it comes to the museum, I love history, and I think we've got a great, we have a great story to tell, and we have, not only has the commission and the society and all the other groups that do things with the history in the museum, but there hasn't been a focus. And I can recall that just a few years ago, I lobbied from a half person to a full person. We got that. But a full person can't go on vacation and keep the museum open. Right. I mean, we have to figure out the way we can more effectively and efficiently use the resources that we have. And whether that means we bring in part-time, I've asked Tim already to look at this, and he said that he would. I think that it's already been mentioned that others have asked for to be looking at it. And it is. The buggies is a nice, but an aspect of the entire museum. And if anybody has not been there, it really is a remarkable asset that we have that we are.
Time's up, Commissioner.
Is that the 3 minutes? That was it. A remarkable asset. A remarkable asset that we have that I think we need to really find a way to enhance and cultivate it and use it for not only our children but our adults. So many transients in Seminole County. We want to show them the history that we have here.
I'm trying to get us moving, but I'll go back to Commissioner Lockhart. I guess, Commissioner Hurd, you need, because we've got one more presenter before lunch, and we've got 1 o'clock hard start, so.
Right. I
Commissioner
understand
Lockhart,
that.
go ahead.
So I will just add to the conversation and say that during the course of this next year, I would hope that we would see if there need to be some mid-year adjustments, if you're not able to get this figured out right now, if we need to have work sessions, whatever that may be. But I thought that we were working, to Commissioner Constantine's point about focus, I thought we were working on a curator document that would come to the board that would give us, and this may have been before your time, so I'm going to give you the pass on that, that would give the curator of the museum the board's direction on how we are going to accumulate stuff for the museum. Just because Grandma wants to donate her Pyrex collection after she dies doesn't mean that we necessarily are the place for it to go.
Right.
And absent that document and direction from this board, I think our current museum operator is in a bit of a pickle.
And that hasn't, since I've been here, I have not heard that, so I'll defer to Mr. Durer, but we'll work on that, to
And
bring
what-
that back to the board during a work session.
Mr. Chairman, one last thing. The people of Rolling Hills be happy to see the ribbon cutting, but there also is some still questions on the parking, so I know you're looking at that. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Anything else? All right, thank you, Mr. Durr. I've got a lot to say, but I will just concur with what's been said, and in the interest of moving things along, we'll ask Mr. Harris from Emergency Management to come forward.
Thank you.
Reminding everybody, we are going to take a break, maybe, if we get through this in a timely fashion. If not, we'll work straight through. I've got plenty of snacks up here for my fellow commissioners if we have to. We got a 1 o'clock hard start.
I will just remind the board that we said that this is a compressed time frame already to try to get this all done in one day, because we normally do this in 2 days. So this is our
Understood.
opportunity to have dialogue on this budget with all of our departments, and I don't want to feel rushed if we don't have to.
No, that's what I said. If we have to work straight through, we'll work
Got
straight
it.
through. Mr. Harris.
Up next is the Office of Emergency Management, which is led by Alan Harris. He has 5 divisions: addressing, animal services, E911, emergency management, and emergency telecommunications. His funding is 79% from the general fund. The 19.9% of E911 is from tax collected on phone bills to pay for 911 services. And then he has 0.5% of his funding from animal services donations. Space budget is $4.994 million in the FY24 adopted budget, growing to $5.1 million in FY25, an increase of 3.0%. His FY24 capital was 1.9. FY25, we're proposing $1.4 million, which includes $400,000 for a cooling improvement project at the Animal Services Building. He has 64.5 current FTEs with no proposed new FTEs in FY25. And with that, I'll turn it over to Alan.
All right, good morning. For the record, Alan Harris, Director of the Department of Emergency Management. With me, I have Adam Leaf, Manager of Animal Services, Dina Walker, which oversees addressing and E911, Stephen Lerner, Division Manager of Emergency Management, and Tommy Oliveras, the Division Manager of Emergency Telecommunications. I know there's a lot of bullets there. I'm going to go super fast because I know we're behind a little bit. I just want to bring you up to date on some great things that have happened this year and then what we're looking at in the future. Of course, I don't need to even mention the renovations of the 911 centers, the sheriff's office, as well as the fire department. That was completed this year. We're continuing to enhance the unified addressing system, making sure there's no duplicate street names, which of course expedites 911 getting to emergency calls much, much faster. We've enhanced our interoperability infrastructure here in the county. We're one of the few counties still in the state of Florida, believe it or not, that no matter if you're in a school bus, government vehicle, public works truck, fire engine, police car, whatever, you're on the same channels, the same numbers, everything matches, which is an incredible asset here. This was an issue at Stoneman Douglas. It's been mentioned a couple other mass casualty type of events. We don't have that problem here. Cybersecurity, we also activated some cybersecurity programs both on the 911 side as well as emergency telecommunications over the last year, and we're enhancing those. Looking to the budget year for next year, we're going to be launching video to 911. Very excited about that. Very huge enhancement as we move into the new technology for 911, silent 911. Silent 911 is if you call 911 and you're unable to speak, you'll be able to push a number on your phone that will show up at the 911 dispatcher. They'll know exactly what the number is and therefore be able to dispatch appropriately for that particular emergency. Also, language translation. Of course, you know we have text to 911, but now we'll be able to do language translation in the text to 911 field. We'll be building out our silent alarms infrastructure for our critical infrastructures, enhancing our already now cybersecurity measures. Again, thank you for approving that last year in last year's budget. We're rematrixing our 800 megahertz system to enhance that, and we're also in a phased approach right now of doing additional lightning protection on our towers that we have throughout the county. Just a little bit of trivia, in 2022, the highest lightning strikes in the United States was in Geneva, Florida. 2023, it was in Four Corners, so it moved out of our area, but in 2022, we had more lightning strikes in Geneva than anywhere in the United States. Just a little bit of trivia in case you're asked that on Jeopardy tonight. For the Office of Emergency Management, the first thing I'd like to mention is just like Rick, and I think that you've seen this in departments now, just about every department so far, we are being reaccredited this year. We're one of the few counties in the state of Florida that has accreditation for multitudes of years in the emergency management program, and we are the only, I believe, in the country to every reaccreditation, I'm going to knock on some wood, have zero findings in our plans, our response techniques, our recovery measures. So we're very, very excited about that. We are still in the recovery phase, of course, of Hurricane Ian. We have dealt with multiple emergencies and threats, although thank God we did not get hit by a hurricane in 2023, although we did have the threat of one. Multitudes of disaster exercises with partner organizations. This coming up year, we're going to be rewriting the local mitigation and resiliency strategic plan for Seminole County, as well as we're managing over about 32 mitigation and resiliency grants, home elevations, buyout demolitions, returning to the floodplain, stormwater systems, all types of things through the different mitigation grant programs. On the animal services side, very happy to have our new manager, Adam Leith, with us. He brings a wealth of knowledge from the ASPCA as well as the Humane Society, where he's previously worked. We've finalized and completed our renovations, thank you, this last year. So all the kennel runs now don't have chipping paint or things like that. They look really, really nice. We're continuing with some of the other improvements that are going on there. So this year we'll be finalizing some of the grates and the things like that to make the dogs stay with us more comfortable. We launched a diversion program over the last few months where we're helping to keep pets inside of homes instead of pets being surrendered to our shelter, which is helping us quite a bit with capacity issues. Of course, you know we've been way over capacity in the past. We're really close to that right now, but it has helped at least keep us somewhat stable. We expanded our operational hours to allow people to come after work to do adoptions. We've seen adoption increases based on that. We are looking at implementing outcome procedures at intake. So we're looking at once the animal comes in, as soon as they come in, how can we get this animal out in a loving home? We've done dog enrichment programs. Again, thank you all for doing that for us this year. And I think one of the coolest things is our average dog stay in our shelter last year was 30 days. Now it's 10 to 15 days. For our cats, 25 to 30 days. Now 5 to 10 days. They're getting out of our shelter. So that's because of adoption events. That's because of just new methodology of doing things there. So really appreciate that. This year, we're going to continue to expand our CADIO program with a partnership that we have with Seminole State College. As Tim mentioned, start working on our HVAC phase 1 for the dog kennel runs to comply with the Animal Welfare Act. Expanding our microchip and vaccine clinics for the community to go once a month. We were doing it once a quarter, but we'll do it once a month now to help, again, keep pets in people's homes. And we're doing, again, enhancement of community-related events. One thing I didn't mention, Paws and Claws, of course, a great, great event. Hope we're going to continue that forever. It was an incredible event, so we're going to be doing that. With all of our divisions here that are represented, we do capital improvement
plans. This is the capital improvement plan for animal services. The reason we called this out is we do have a couple high-ticket items on our capital improvement plan, so we wanted you to know about those. The cooling centers is, again, Tim Jex mentioned in reference to the kennels. And then we have a very large building project. This would be the building of the new surgical area, as well as the administration, field services, bite investigations, all of those. You may or may not know that we had to expand, so we have half of our staff, our field service staff, is actually down the road now next to Fire Station 35. They're not actually with us anymore because we just ran out of space in our buildings. The other items are all listed there. I want to be good on time, so if you have any questions.
Thank you, Alan, very much, and we appreciate that overview. Let's switch it up. Commissioner Delary?
Alan, you do a great job. Your whole staff does a great job. I mean, to sit here and tell you how great you are and how great your whole department is kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm not trying to downplay what you all do. You all have a passion and love for these animals, and so do we.
Yeah.
As well as emergency management. I'm not trying to take anything away from emergency management. In times of hurricanes and disasters, you guys are just camping out doing amazing work. Great job. Keep it up.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Love you all.
Thank you.
Commissioner Constantine?
Same. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Lockhart?
Oh, goodness. Okay. Also for deeper discussion at a later date, but in my hierarchy, people come before animals, and we take care of animals because we're taking care of people. So just from a philosophical perspective, animal control is in public safety for a reason, because they're not just our furry friends who we love, they also can be very dangerous, and they are a part of making sure that our taking care of them appropriately is a part of keeping our community safe. That being said, you mentioned that part of the reason why we have fewer animals is not just because we're keeping them in homes, but because of a new methodology. Can
The
you tell
diversion
me?
program are you referring to?
You mentioned because of this, this, and this, and a new methodology.
Yep.
Can you expand on what the new methodology is?
Sure. If we can provide donated food services, vaccines, I'll speak to just for me. I just had my.
No, I want you to speak to what the new methodology is.
Yeah, this is it.
Okay.
So I took my Toto into the vet clinic. It cost me $250. Someone that's living paycheck to paycheck that can barely afford food on the table at night, if we can provide that service monthly to them, and they can get that for at cost, $5, $10, because that's how much the shot costs. That's the program. If we can keep those pets in the homes instead of the owner surrenders. What happened after COVID was that we started to get an influx of animals. People started to go back to work, they started traveling and things like that. We don't want the shelter first model. The shelter first model is we can't take care of it, here you go. We don't want that. If we can keep the animals in a loving home, there's still animal control measures, there's still field services, there's still things like that that have to take place. But we're trying to keep people that want one of the most difficult things that I do in my job is sit in a lobby, when I walk through that lobby, and you've probably been there too, and the person is crying as they're turning their dog over to their, I mean, it is heartbreaking. If I can just say, hey, can I give you a little bit of food? Can I do your vaccines for you? Will that help you? Yes, that will help me. Let's do it.
Okay. So, TNVR. On page 480, we have $20,000 allocated for it for the 25 fiscal budget. According to the actuals from the last 3 years, there has been no money allocated to that. But yet I know we were doing it. So help me with that.
So the board approved that in 2022. We used partner organizations to do that from 2022 really until last year. The reason that we started to do it is because our partner organizations expressed that they were in the red They no longer had the volunteer staff to do it. So this amount of money helps us to do surgeries, helps us to do things like that.
So does this 20,000 represent the total amount that the volunteer organizations were providing? Are we completely taking over the cost that the
No.
volunteer organizations were? Are they still doing?
They're still doing it, yes.
So they're still doing some, but not as much?
Correct.
Now, we've picked up some of the $20,000 of the slack.
That's correct.
But we were not paying for any of it before?
That's correct.
Okay, but we
Now, you
started,
approved in January of this year, and we had to put money there because you approved the agreement with Spay and Save to start doing some of the surgeries for it. It was a 50-50. So the nonprofits are still funding 50%, but we had to have, and that's what's in the budget line, we had to have that other 50%. Now, in some cases, the nonprofit has said, we can't do it. We're maxed. We don't have enough, they're all volunteers.
understood.
Yeah, so we don't have any more volunteers, and in that case, we do the whole cat, if you will. But this is in
Were you
partnership.
only doing half a cat before?
Do you understand?
I get it. I was trying to bring some levity to
Okay, so,
neuters and spays.
So we always work in partnership with a member of the community. We're not just returning a cat to a place where there's not already someone there taking care of the cat. Some community cat caregiver, but they're not affiliated with that nonprofit organization.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Good.
I,
I don't know that this mic works because I never talk, but.
Well, you're welcome to.
So I'm sorry to interrupt, but I have spent more time on TNVR than I ever imagined. I am your new subject matter expert. So I want to add in, Alan, just because you and Adam are knee-deep in it. We partner with a not-for-profit called Seminole TNVR. They struggled to keep up with the magnitude of cats. We, in effort to support them, pay $20,000 in an MOU that was executed earlier this year to Spay and Save. So they do some of these, the neuter part of the TNVR to assist Seminole TNVR because they couldn't keep up with it, they couldn't afford it. So last year, we found money in the food line and moved it over. This year, it's clearly budgeted. We have taken on some of these activities in-house because we had the bandwidth to do it, and it's actually less expensive to do that, and because there is a need for it to be done. And on that note, I will just say, we have offered to schedule briefings to your aides about TNVR so that we can spend as much time as you would all like to talk about it offline, rather than
Right.
budget hearing.
That's great. And I think, just like with the museum, we probably have not had the opportunity to give direction to the county manager on what our expectations are with regard to whether it's TNVR or picking up dead animals on the side of the road. Because frankly, that has just been happening for many, many years. If there was a dead animal on the side of the road, you'd call and someone would come pick it up. Again, it's a public safety issue when you have rotting animals on the side of the road. So I think there are some unspoken expectations on behalf of board members, and whether that impacts your budget or not is where we need to have these conversations and delivery of service to citizens. That's all I have.
Commissioner Herr.
I suspect that one of the reasons why the drop in the dog length of stay is because we had dogs that were part of a very long trial. Is
So
that accurate?
the protective custody actually is not part of that
It's separated
statistic.
out? Okay, so.
That would have majorly skewed
Well, I
because
was
those
trying
were
to
with
very
us for
quickly
over a
do the
year
math,
and a half.
I gave up and
Right.
just decided to ask the question.
Right.
Because
No,
I
it's a
don't
good
have
question. It was a
I
great
don't have
question.
good recall on the number of
Yes.
days, but I have no further questions. I think we have to continue. I think when you see those large numbers in there for building and air conditioning, et cetera, we have to remember that those buildings not only house the animals, which, I appreciate that it gets really hot. They shouldn't be in extreme heat. That's not all year, right? And so there's a good contingency of our constituents that would think that that's okay. Our employees are in those buildings as well, and it's really not good working conditions, and so we have to address that. So I'm glad it's in there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Thank you for all you guys do.
Anything else?
Nope.
Well, Alan, thank you all for everything you've done. I know we've been through a lot of animal control issues over the past year, and many of which not everybody was prepared for, things that occurred that arguably were abnormal, uncalled for. And I commend you and your staff and the volunteers for moving forward, keeping your chins up and moving forward for the best interest of the animals and the citizens of the county. I think it speaks a great deal to the character of your folks that we care for these animals and really looking out for the best interest of them. And finally, as far as it goes to roadkill, I'd like to know some more about that as it comes domestic animals and so forth. I mean, in my district, protected species feeds on roadkill. And so whether we're going to be picking up all animals, some animals, whatever that might be, I think, if we have a work session regarding that, that would be very helpful. So
That is on our list to bring back to you.
great.
Commissioner Herr just rolled her eyes out loud.
Definitely don't want to do
Hey,
that.
buzzards got to eat too.
They do, absolutely. There's a food chain.
They serve a purpose.
Absolutely.
All right, anything else from the commission on this one? All right, do y'all want to continue to work through this, or do you want to take a lunch break?
I'll take a lunch break.
I'm fine taking a break. I mean, I got some calls I got to make.
Sure.
All right, you want to be back here at 12:45, or you want to go all the way to 1? You want to get started again at 1, or you want to get started at 12:45?
The next group is Fleet and Facilities, correct?
Right, correct.
Do you envision us taking only 15 minutes with them?
No,
If we start,
It'd probably be about a good 30 between the presentation and questions
Okay.
from the board.
all right, I'll
So
do
we'll come back at 1?
whatever.
Okay.
I don't care.
Back at 1, and Commissioner Herr has to leave at 4, hard break, right?
Oh, that's right, I forgot about that.
No, I have to leave at 3:30. I have to be there at 4.
Oh,
Okay.
well, then let's come back.
Okay.
Because
I'm good.
it won't take but 30 minutes to choke back a sandwich. It's true.
All right, I'm hearing 12:30, going,
Okay.
going, gone. Let's just make a
12:30.
decision.
Everybody back at 12:30.
12:30.
Does that work for you, Mr. Wilski? Thank you.